Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm Gabriella Spencer, and I'll be the moderator. Today's webinar is a part of MMAC's partnership with the CDC Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. MMAC is proud to be partnering with the organizations such as Sister Love to help spread materials like Let's Stop HIV Together campaign to prioritize communities. You can find out more via the link in the chat. And now we'll do introductions. So Grisel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is Grisel Granados. I am joining from Los Angeles, California, and I am the Deputy Director with the Well Project.
Thank you, Grisel. Melanie? Oh, Melanie, we can't hear you. Okay, we'll come back, Melanie. Phyllis?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Phyllis. I work for Sister Love. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a prevention specialist.
Thank you, Phyllis. Denise?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise Drake. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but I work for a career centers at GMHC. I'm a peer educator.
Thank you,
Okay,
Denise.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you, Melanie.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melanie Reese. I'm part of the NMAC 50 plus strong and healthy cohort 2021-2022, and I'm the executive director of Older Women Embracing Life, and I am coming from Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you, Melanie. And last but not least, Aracelis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aracelis Quiñones. I am a scholar from MMAC 50 Plus. I also work for the Latino Commission on AIDS as a group coordinator. I'm sorry that I having problems with the video of my camera.
Thank you, Aracelis, and thank you to all our panelists for joining us today. We'll start the discussion. So my first question is, what are some recommendations or tips that you have for other women living with HIV to continue their health journey? So I will start off with Aracelis. I know you were last to speak, but would you like to tackle this question?
Sure. You know something, taking care of ourselves is supposed to be a priority. But what happens is that us as women, we tend to take care of everyone first. Our children, our partners, our parents, grandkids, and then us. It is good to be loving and caring, but I think that in order to love others, we have to start doing loving ourselves first. Living with HIV and aging as a woman hasn't been easy due to the comorbidities and a couple of illnesses that I have with aging. But what I think that it will work is when you incorporate in your journey, when you incorporate, like learn to deal with the guilt and the shame, and start surrounding yourself with a good network of positive people that accept you the way you are. Continue being active in the community. That has helped me a lot. I enjoy life. So I would say, please keep enjoying life. My advice always will be to love yourself, try your best to prevent illnesses, get help when you need help, and always try to manage and control physical and emotional health.
Thank you, Aracelis. I completely agree. We have to love ourselves and put ourselves first. As women, we're often tasked with a lot of responsibilities, and we often put other people before ourselves. Denise, would you like to tackle this question too?
Sure. I also have background music because my window's open, and this is what happens in Brooklyn in the summertime. But anyway, I would say that naps are necessary. Don't worry about it. People think you're lazy. That's not the case. It's always good. I see that there's some studies out that say that indulging in a good daytime short nap mid-afternoon can boost memory, improve job performance, lift your mood and make you more alert and ease your stress. So for me, if I know that I have to do something, I have to, like, I wanted to take a quick 20-minute power nap for the panel, but I didn't get a chance. But certainly naps are good, and don't let anybody turn you around. I also would suggest that you share your health journey with other women aging with HIV, because they have a lot of good suggestions on how they might have gotten through some depression or feelings that they might be going through, body image changes, because we do begin to concern ourselves with others. Don't compare your journey, but certainly share. And then once you get the information, share it with your doctor before you try anything, because everything isn't for everybody. What might be good for some isn't good for others. Some things are just genetic. People age differently, but certainly it's good to talk and share and hear what other women living with HIV and aging are going through.
Thank you, Denise. I definitely agree. My after work naps definitely give me the energy boost that I need to complete everything else in my work, in my day. So thank you. And I also agree, like, don't compare your journey, don't compare your journey, but share your journey. I think that was a very great statement to leave us with. Phyllis, would you like to touch on this question too?
Yes. Well, they touched on a lot of things, and I believe that you take time for yourself. You got to take time for yourself. If you're living in the house with kids in the house, and you just have to just set your boundary and say, at 1 o'clock, this is my time. Close your door, do what you need to do. If you got to paint your fingernails, toenails, everything, this is your time, and that's it. You have to let them people know in your house, this is grandmama time, this is mama time. And then also get with other people. If I tell you that I've been positive 20 years and you've been positive 10 years, and you can get to 20 years. If I've got there, you can get there. Regardless of what kind of ailments you have or what ailments on top of your HIV, you will get there. And the only person that will stop it from getting there is you. And this is what we want you to do. And also get with some support systems. With your support system, get with support groups. All the support groups, they're doing things. Like I have one myself. We do different things. We have different topics, and we don't always talk about HIV. We talk about what's going on. Yeah, what's going on with you? And all of us have aged a little bit because we've been in this group for so long. So that's what you need to do. Just get in with a group with other people, so you don't be by yourself. And don't accidentally isolate yourself, because that's the one thing you do not need. Once you're getting isolated, you don't even know. All you know is that you be in this house all day long. So and then on the other thing, I think that we have phone numbers. We are your support system. Call me, call this person, and say, hey, I just want to vent. I just want to get out the house. Well, we can meet at the bus stop. We can walk down. We can just walk. We can do something, and it will help you every day. How they say, a hug, you hug somebody, you get a extra T cells. Hey, I'm like this. You give me a hug, you gonna take anything. I'm like this. I get them T cells, and then I bring you into the fold. So all you have to do is bring somebody into the fold with you, and show them. Sometimes you have to show them the path that they need to be taken. Because if you fall off their path, you need somebody. You need help.
Thank you, Phyllis. I think the overarching themes that I heard throughout all of y'all's answers was support and putting yourself forward first, whether that's taking naps or just taking some time to yourself, closing the door and saying, I need a moment. So thank you. My next question is, what do you want healthcare providers to know when they're caring for women with what do you want healthcare providers to know when they're caring for women who are long-term survivors and or aging with HIV?
I'll go ahead. Yes, I would like healthcare providers to be active observers and active listeners. When you're a patient, whether in person or remote, many times the most important thing for them at that particular time is not their HIV. They may be needing something, rent relief, something for your utilities, food, transportation. There are other things going on in our lives other than having HIV. And so the provider needs, especially remote, they have to really observe, because there might be something going on that their patient isn't going to outright say or talk to them about. And they can see something's going on, so they can ask a probing question to make it so that they'll feel comfortable in expressing themselves. And also, use people first language whenever possible. Be non-biased. We all have biases, but we have to work on not letting our biases come out in our discussions. Be non-judgmental. And you have to be careful about your body language, because your words can say one thing and your body and your facial expressions can say something else. And especially, do not discount their pain. If they're talking to you about pain, it's real. It's not in their heads. We need to do something, and they need to do something to help us manage it.
Thank you, Melanie. Phyllis, I know you had your hand up, but I want to allow Griselle an opportunity to answer this question because we haven't heard from her.
Yeah, so I did my quick professional introduction, but just to address, right, the fact that I am not over 50, but I am a long-term survivor. I have been living with HIV since I was born. So I've been living with HIV for 35 and a half years now. And so my journey of aging with HIV definitely looks different, right? And it's something that we don't know enough about. And so in terms of healthcare providers, and what I think is important for healthcare providers to know, right, is, so I agree with what Melanie has shared so far, right, in terms of like it's not just about HIV. There's all these other social things that are happening, but there's also a lot of physical things that could be happening that go beyond viral load suppression, right? So I have been virally suppressed most of my life. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that come up, right? And so again, back to Melanie's points of like being a good listener and being an observer of things that go beyond the viral load, right? Like at this point in the game, and after these many decades, like that is not the only thing that is coming up. I have a lot of questions about what aging with HIV looks like for me, right? Like we know that HIV causes inflammation in the body. We know that there are, certain like symptoms and side effects of having been on medication for 3 decades, right? However, nobody is able to tell me what that means for me. Like, should I be expecting menopause sooner? Should I be, like checking my bone density at this age, right? Because again, I've been living with HIV 3.5 decades, right? And so just, this is really for the medical providers to ask those questions, to create that space for people who were born with HIV to inquire and not just dismiss them as like, you don't have to worry about that yet, you're still young, right? And so just again, to Melanie's point, like listen to us, observe what's going on with us, and really think beyond viral load suppression and look at our overall quality of life that may not just be in those labs that are run as part of typical HIV care.
Thank you, Griselle. Phyllis?
Go ahead, Phyllis. I was going to just add to something that Griselle just said. We can't forget the verticals. We have to lower the aging from 50 to below, because verticals have been living with HIV all their lives. And what's it going to look like for a vertical? Well, they really don't know what it looks like for us who are over 50. So these are new inroads, and we have to demand more research opportunities so that we can find biomarkers, so that the group of people coming behind us who are HIV positive can see a marker in a blood draw, so they can address something before it becomes a serious matter. So speak up for the verticals. I will too. Go ahead, Phyllis.
So, okay. So I'll have to agree with Melanie and Giselle. You do have to have that listening. They have to listen to you because like when you go in to see your doctor, they got about 15 or 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to be with you. Hey, you may need that extra 3 more minutes to tell them exactly what is going on. Just have to be patient and then listen. And with all of that, then they may say, hey, your labs look good. Okay, tell me what look goods look like. What is the A1C? Or what is that? You need to tell me the ranges. And it should be like that every time without me having to ask you to tell me when it's, well, your cholesterol is looking kind of low. What's wrong with it? Why is it? What's the range? What range should I be in? And I think that also should be telling the person, we are in it with you or with you. Okay. So if you go in it with me, then you be in there with me. You explain stuff to me and say, don't talk over my head. So because if you do, I'd be done left out your office and did not ask the questions that needed to be asked. So and then like sometimes, like we've said, that you may have something going on Tuesday. You write that down. Something going on Wednesday, you write that down. Then you go see your doctor on Friday. You just take your paper and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I have felt this week. Okay, you had 1, 2, 3 things. So I saw 2, 3 things that we need to talk about right now. Okay, so tell me. Well, don't have me leaving out your office the dumbfounded like I walked in and say these questions. She never answered my question. What is wrong? And then you go along and not knowing until somebody can tell you, hey, you need to stop your doctor and just say, can you explain this to me? Can you slow down? Or what is my range? This is all I just am I doing okay? And it's always good to hear everything. You may have to stay that little extra 3 more minutes to get everything, get a good understanding. If they have to, just say, can you run me off a copy? Can run me off a copy of this, and then you take it to the pharmacy or where you need to go and tell, can you explain this to me? Because my doctor didn't do this. Can you explain this to me? The next time you go in there, you be powered up and you know what you need to do and know what you need to say. And I have to add this, as long as we've been HIV positive, we should be able to tell you a few things. Don't go on saying, well, I think. No, I can tell you, I've lived it. I lived it for 24 years. And I can tell you this. I can tell you this. I can tell you that. Now, and then one other thing I have to say, don't let your doctor get too excited about your T cell being went up and then you are. I'll let your doctor say, well, your T cells going up. And you just, oh, okay. That's a milestone. That's a milestone with us. And in aging, of course.
Thank you, Phyllis. Aracelis?
Yes, I agree with everything that has been said. And I just want to add that one of the things that I would like health providers to understand is that even though that we as women have similarities, every case is unique. So we need to be taken care of as a unique case because we have physical, emotional, and financial needs that are different that we have to deal on a daily basis. We also have health problems that come with aging, and sometimes we are not even asked. With age comes sometimes osteoporosis, mobility issues, mental health issues, cardiovascular issues, and our quality of life needs to be prioritized. So I always say when we go to see our health care provider, we have to ask. We have to always be on top of everything because sometimes we leave things to them, and for them, we are a patient. We have to be our own doctors sometime and say what it is that I need and ask questions. Say, well, I think that I haven't get this test done for a long time. Please check how are my bones, how's everything is going on. And again, try to make them understand that our cases are unique. It can be similar to other women, but they are unique.
Thank you. So what I heard was health providers need to observe the patients. They need to listen and give us accurate amount of time to actually articulate our needs and understand what they're saying. And there needs to be a little bit more research. And we also need to, speak up sometimes for ourselves because it can be a little hard, but we can't be afraid to. So my next question is, what are some ways that you're advocating for women aging with HIV? And Denise, I would like for you to start with this.
Okay, so I can just start by saying that I share my story. I'm out about being positive. I share it wherever I can to help women because I believe it's a chronic illness that is manageable and that we have potential to live long lives. As I'm 29 years living positive so far, and I hope to live to be 100. I'm 71 now, so I outwardly share as often as possible. If I have an opportunity, I've been asked to speak with PWN US Positive Women's Network. Speak with them. We did HIV criminalization. We talked to women about that. And so any opportunity, because I don't want anyone to experience what I experienced. I went for the package deal. I looked at the person. I thought that they were in love with me. I trusted them more than, even though I had knowledge and information, I allowed myself to be taken care of by somebody else instead of looking out for myself. So subsequently, I contracted HIV through unprotected sex. And it's not for lack of information. And what I want to share with women is that it might look good on the outside, but you never know what's going on. So always advocate for yourself, for your protection, and it's nothing wrong with that. And if I can spread that message, because it's a preventable illness, women don't have to contract HIV, and that's basically what I share whenever I talk with women. I don't hold a grudge, nor do I feel animosity towards that person. We don't know why people choose not to disclose, but we do know that we have a responsibility to ourselves, and it's a responsibility that once you realize that, you can have less of a stressful relationship. Be open and honest about what you're dealing with, and give people an option whether they want to be involved with you at that level. So that's basically what I do, and I work with an HIV ministry at the church because there's high levels of stigma in the church. They come from a background where they twist biblical scripture to make it fit situations, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I personally am the only out positive person in my church, even though I know there are other positive people in my church. No one is saying that they're positive. They still haven't. So my HIV ministry that I'm a part of is in existence for 17 years. And in 17 years, I haven't heard anybody else say outwardly that they're positive. But we still keep doing the work because the work is important.
Thank you, Denise. Melanie, would you like to chime in?
Yes. I advocate for women. I've included verticals as one of my advocacy messages because they are aging and they're not being recognized as aging. And we need to get that changed because it took long enough for them to lower the age of aging to 50 because living with HIV, but it needs to be even lower. I also, like Denise, I share my story. And in my story, I also include my experiences with stigma, rejection, discrimination, and also the positives when I am acknowledged and loved and embraced for sharing my status. I, like Denise, I'm openly share my status, and especially at tables that are outside of the HIV community, where whatever table I sit, I share my story. at research. I tell them there's not enough research on women living with HIV. There's not enough research on people who are aging with HIV. These are things we need to know. When the end the epidemic pillars came out, I didn't see anything that was talking about those of us who are long-term survivors or aging with HIV. Hey, we're still here. What are you going to be doing for us? And this is what I make sure I'm doing, lending my voice to their ear. There are things that need to happen and be in place for us. We're the first cohort. There are going to be many, many, many coming behind. And so you may want to get to almost zero or 30,000 or 3,000 or less new infections per year, but we're still going to be living here. Those of us already with HIV, there's no cure and there is no vaccine against it. So we need services, resources that have not been normally allowed using Ryan White funds. The other thing is we're aging and we didn't plan to still be here. We didn't realize that HIV was going to be a chronic disease and manageable. And so most of us did not prepare for a retirement or a long life on very little funds. Okay. And so the requirements to be eligible for Ryan White services need to be changed, because you're going to have to be a working, aging person. Look at the political and society realities around us. We're going to have to earn additional monies just to even survive. Not talking about even thriving, because quality of life, oh yeah, it's in the National HIV/AIDS Strategy, but the definition of what comprises quality of life has to come from us, those of us living with HIV, and not the perceptions of those who aren't living with HIV, what it should look like. And so I do that. I do that.
Thank you, Melanie. Grisel?
Yes, no, thank you, Melanie. First of all, thank you so much for including the verticals and as part of your advocacy. We are, I feel like, especially recently, more recently, we've definitely felt much more embraced by the aging community. So, so thank you, and it's people like you who have made that happen. I mean, I think you know, our struggles have always been connected to women. Women have been the ones leading this because they are our mothers, right? And so a couple of years ago, I created a documentary focusing on people who were born with HIV, and both intentionally and unintentionally ended up telling the stories of our mothers, right? And so I think our journeys are definitely intertwined. And so I think that is part of the reason. I think the work and the advocacy led by women has been what has been helping us more recently get some more airspace around issues of the vertical community. And so in terms of my advocacy, I mean, it's both from like a personal, right, like hat, and then also professionally through the Well Project. And it's really focusing on some of the things that Melanie talked about, right? And so raising awareness about the vertical community and making sure that this community is included in conversations about long-term survivors, and also just having holistic care, right? So something we were talking about a little bit earlier as well, right, going beyond viral load suppression, going beyond like just talking about HIV, and really looking at us holistically, right? Especially as you know, as we continue to age and start to get other co-occurring illnesses that are related to aging that could be exacerbated by HIV, just being able to open up the spectrum. So whether it's HIV specialists, just broadening the scope of what they are assessing us for, or setting up really good collaborations and referrals with other specialists that we need to be working with, right? And so it's a little bit of both. I don't think HIV specialists are going to be experts in everything, but at least should be thinking about those referrals that are, you know, easy to get, being able to have communication with some of the other specialists we need to see, embracing other types of holistic care. So, for example, I have started to see an acupuncturist a couple of months ago, just for other things that weren't getting addressed by my HIV specialist. And, you know, like I want there to be that communication between both of my providers of what is going on with other things happening with my health, and how does it relate and interact with HIV, right? So I think we need to start thinking about that, especially, right, kind of like as Melanie said, we didn't plan for this to be a chronic illness, and so that has very serious implications that we don't know enough about. So just really being open to making sure that HIV becomes more and more holistic. So just some of the topics, right, kind of like that I'm passionate about in terms of advocacy.
Thank you, Grisel. So the overarching themes that I heard in that question were really that there's power in storytelling. All of you all mentioned that you told your story to others, and Grisel mentioned making a documentary. So there is power in storytelling, and also we need more resources and research. That's also something that I heard, and also advocating for communities that you may not necessarily be a part of, but just advocating for other communities. So that's what I heard. And my other question is, what are some things you would like to see organizations and providers do to prioritize outreach and services to women, especially older women? I'll start with Phyllis.
Out there and do outreach. Go out and just talk to the women about what do they need. And what do they need? What do you see? What do you see? What is wrong with with some of the things that you think that we need help with? With us doing out there, go out there doing some talking, out there going out and do outreach. And I think that's what we need to do more, because you know when I was positive, when I was diagnosed 1996, they told me you wouldn't live for 10 years. So with that idea of somebody telling me that, and it's not true, every day was hard for me to live. So I asked that, but what they need is that we need to do a better education. That education with Sister Love and Merck, they did a video of Everyone Has a Story, and in that one we talked about everything, family, friends, and family, everything. But what most of all, I think education is the basic needs, right, of learning and what we need.
Thank you, Phyllis. Denise?
I always have to like find that button. Yeah, so I you know, organizations, one, I always thought, like, I remember joining an organization and they asked me to be on their board of directors. And, you know, like, not because I don't believe they valued me particularly, but they wanted a African-American HIV positive woman on their board to meet the demographics that they needed. And so a lot of things were passed by me and I wasn't aware. So I would like organizations, well, I learned after that, you know, to ask questions and not lend my name to things, because I could be held financially accountable for some things that the organization might do. One, and two, I also realized that I'm valuable. You know, I count for something. You know, yes, I fit your demographics for a reason. You know, your funding comes through based on who you serve. So I would say that when you join boards or organizations or people, it's an honor. You feel great. You think you're going to be heard, and make sure you are heard. Make sure that people are not just using you for their own benefit, because you're valuable. Your experience is undeniable. You cannot pay enough money for people's experience. And to that and like you can ask for a fee too. Like you can start getting paid for your experience, because yes, it's good to give back and give, because we're grateful for all that's happened or whatever, but also know that you're valuable enough to be paid for the information that you share. That's one thing I'd like organizations to recognize and value us as women more so than they have been in the past. And when you ask us to be a part of your boards or your leadership, then recognize that we come to the table with a wealth of information and knowledge, and it's beneficial for everyone. And I remember, I don't see enough about PrEP for women. I remember being a part of a listening campaign. They were running this campaign that was supposed to be for PrEP for women, and it was on the subways in New York, and then it disappeared, and it never showed back up again. And all I see on television is men, men having sex, or women of trans experience. And this campaign that they started talking about was in 2016. We're in 2022 now and still don't have a solid, in New York, I don't know about everywhere else, but we still don't have a solid campaign that represents, prevention for women with that kind of thing. So I want organizations to back up what they put out there in the world. If you say you're going to help women, back it up with action. If you're going to, if you want women to be a part of it and you use us for your funding that you get or whatever, then actually do what you say you're going to do when you involve women in your organizations. Yeah.
Thank you. Melanie?
I want to piggyback off of Denise's statement about PrEP for women. There's marketing and advertisements. You don't see people who look like us in those brochures, billboards or whatnot. And we don't know to ask. Now, I don't know about the other women here, but I would love to prevent any other woman from ever having to hear they have a HIV positive diagnosis. And that's prevention, and education. And the other thing that we don't talk enough about is non-occupational post-exposure prophylaxis, because if you are assaulted, if you have a partner who started with a condom and then the condom is taken off, I don't know how it's done, but it's called stealthing. You need to get a script for PEP within 72 hours and take it for the 30 days so that you don't seroconvert. Also, MIPA, meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. It can't be tokenized. You can't say, I have one, I'm done. Organizations need to recognize that women, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and other women of color have lived experience that surpasses degrees that you get in school. Learning from a book has nothing on the actual lived experience. And so if you ask us to be on a board, if you want us to be a panelist, if you want us to be a patient faculty person, you need to pay us. Not less than a faculty, but at the same rate. We deserve it. And that's money well spent. And I just say there are organizations out there that are led by people living with HIV. All the other organizations that work with people living with HIV need to follow what these organizations are doing and just do it. Don't say, oh, we have a few PLHIVs on our board or our advisory board. No, you need to put us in meaningful positions, and one is not enough.
Thank you.
I'll
Grisel, would
stop
you?
there because you'll never get another word in edgewise.
No, thank you for all that, Melanie. Definitely on the same wavelength. I think in terms of prevention, outreach, and particularly for older women, I think it's really just around not making assumptions, right, about women's sexual lives. I think there's once women are past reproductive age, then providers stop asking about their sex lives, right? Or even being in a committed relationship or being in a long-term committed relationship, they stop asking me about anything else. They're like, oh, okay, oh, you're married now? Oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't need to ask you anything else, right? And so not making those assumptions, I think is something that providers, both in medical settings and in organizations really need to focus on is, again, considering women as full people with full rich lives, not making assumptions about what people are doing and what their lives are like, what their relationship status is, right? And so having a sex positive approach as well, right? Like I think as we progress as a society and become more open-minded, you don't know what people are doing. You know what people are doing, right? With no shame, but just being able to have open conversations that are sex positive and still support women at any age to have what they need to stay HIV negative and to treat any STIs and to address their sexual health beyond pregnancy and also beyond disease, right? Like we also want to talk about sexual pleasure and sexual desire, right? Again,
That's a pleasure.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, right. Just because people stop being able to get pregnant doesn't mean that like, okay, I'm not gonna have sex anymore, right? And so being able to have a more sex positive approach to women's lives, I think will also impact HIV prevention. So
Yes, I want to ask something about that too. Programs for women are almost non-existent. We need to change that, especially for older women that are living with HIV. We don't have that luxury of time. We need to take this issue as an urgent issue. Those things need to be addressed because everywhere you go, there is a lot of programs for men. And what about us? What about us women? We need programs also. We need to get involved. We need to do a lot of things, and we are being ignored a lot of the time.
Thank you, everyone. So to sum it all up, I heard education, I heard MIPA, I heard compensate us for our work, don't just tokenize us. I also heard don't make assumptions, and I heard we need programs for women, we need representation of women, we need people that look like us in your company. So that's what I heard. And now we will open it up to the audience to ask us any questions. And while you all might think about that, I'll discuss one of the ways MMAC is supporting women. So I lead the GLOW program. We're currently revamping GLOW, which is our Growing Leadership Opportunities for Women. So that's our women programming. And this program will be encompassing like a wellness toolkit for women. Like we'll encompass everything from sexual to reproductive health. So we'll have those sex positive conversations that Grisel mentioned. And this is a women's program that Aracel mentioned. So this will encompass sexual reproductive health. And then we'll also talk about moving up in the workforce, because I think Denise and Melanie both touched on these items, like how do we get to be in the seat? How do we get to the table? How do we move up? How do we make sure that we're represented in your organization? So we'll touch on that. And then we'll also talk about that holistic wellness that Grisel mentioned earlier. So we'll talk about ensuring like mental health, and I think this was a common theme throughout everyone's answers, that women often put a lot of other people before them, and we don't often put ourselves before everyone else. So this program will encompass that and will ensure that this is a nice, safe space, which is why we're calling it a wellness summit. It's not curriculum. We're giving like a wellness toolkit. It will be a wellness summit. We don't want to teach or like lecture you all. We just want you all to come and decompress and get that space where you can finally put away everything else in your life and just focus on yourself, and also get that information that you all have mentioned throughout this wonderful conversation. So this year, our theme is We Glow While We Listen. So we didn't want to just create this program without actually, knowing what the community wants. We didn't want to assume this is what the community wants. So we are hosting a lot of community engagement sessions throughout the country right now. So we just came back from one in LA, and we're also talking to providers too, because we realize, as you all mentioned, the providers have a stake in this too. So we're doing listening sessions with providers and community members so we can ensure that this wellness curriculum or this wellness toolkit that we're creating is what it's for you, by you, like it's made for women by women. So we're taking a very culturally competent way of creating this toolkit. So be on the lookout for that. We are going to New Orleans, June 28th. So if anyone is listening, we're hosting a listening session in New Orleans, June 28th. So that is something.
Is that at Essence?
So it's before Essence. We will be boothing Essence too. So we'll have a booth at Essence. So if you are at Essence Festival, see us. We'll have a booth. We'll give out really great surprise. I can't mention all of them right now, but check us out. So Darnell, did we get any questions in the chat?
So yes, Gabriella, we have one question right now, and that question is, how can MMAC and the women on this panel ensure that all women are supported versus Black women or Latino women only, when all women from various ethnic groups are equally at risk?
Well, I can answer from the MX standpoint. The program that I mentioned, GLOW, we are targeting, or not targeting, we're engaging all communities. So we are having specific listening sessions. We're having a listening session for Asian women. We're having a listening session for Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander women. We're having a listening session for Latinx women, for Black women. So all of the communities, we want to hear from you all. And I don't know if any of the other panelists want to answer this question or tackle it.
Well, I'll say that I understand where that question is coming from. However, I need to push back because being a Black woman in the society, I'll be 70 years old next Tuesday. I have lived, this was even before HIV. Black women were misused, underserved, underrepresented, and had to fight for every little step we took. And I was told when I was growing up, I had to be 2 to 3 times better than my Caucasian counterparts to be considered average. And that made me furious. And it's carried with me even into HIV. Black women, you don't see us, you don't hear us, except that PWN USA, ICWNA, Older Women Embracing Life, NMAC, we're doing more. But we still are so far behind. The number of new HIV infections in women are Black women. So there goes to show you where we are far behind in terms of prevention, education, comprehensive sexual health education, and all of that. We're behind. And so all women need to be elevated, but especially Black, Latinx women, because we have not been in the picture for very long.
And I think also just to add to Melanie, right? Like when Black women are doing great, everybody benefits. And so I think it's also right. It's not to leave other groups out, right? And there are spaces where, like, even Latina women are not necessarily going to be centered, right? But I think when we focus on Black women, everybody will benefit, right? Like, we all have like, our struggles are united and our liberation is united as well. So
Yes.
I was just looking at an article today, actually, from womenshealth.gov. And yes, all women need to be elevated, and that's a fact. I support what is being said. But as Melanie pointed out, it says here in womenshealth.gov, African American women make up more than 61% of new infections among women, but are only 14% of the female population in the United States. African American women face the highest risk of HIV and other sexually transmitted infections compared with women of other groups. However, many African American women do not know their status, and they put that towards the fact that there's poverty, stigma, and fear of discrimination that may prevent women from getting tested or seeking care if infected. And it goes on to talk about Hispanic women as well. But, you know, like, it's true. All women need to be elevated, but whenever there is something that is a problem, you want to get to the root of the problem. You can, you know, like, you can put ointment on everything, but you really want to get to where there's hurt. And the Black community, Black women specifically, are suffering the most at this point. So that's where we want to focus our attention. And that's what you usually, and it might seem like a lot of attention is being focused at this group, and it's rightfully so, and it's needed. So where there's a need, we come and we answer the call of the need in this instance.
Thank you. Darnell, are there any other questions?
Yes, Gabriella, the question is, will GLOW do a listening session in Miami, Florida?
Yes, so GLOW will do a listening session in Florida. We do not have the dates confirmed, but we do want to engage those areas that are in the 50 jurisdictions. And you can let that person know if they want to email me. I think I have the ability to chat everyone. Yeah, I can't, but you can put my email in the chat for them, Darnell, please. So if anyone wants to email me and ask me any other questions about GLOW.
Okay, next question I have. I would like them to address U equals U for women, injectable meds, PrEP in homeless communities. I guess they want you guys to discuss that.
Would anyone like to take a stab at this first?
Well, I am a U equals U ambassador for the Maryland U equals U coalition. And U equals U has, in my mind, been focused on gay and bisexual men and transgender women, and not as much for cisgender women. Primarily because when women who are of childbearing age, still they are not encouraged to be pregnant, and they are absolutely discouraged from breastfeeding. And U equals U should translate from not being able to transmit HIV through sexual activity. It should translate into women who are positive breastfeeding their children. And right now, with the formula, the baby formula crisis that's going on, It's more important now than ever that the CDC and other institutions that establish standards and protocols, they need to take a look at that, because despite it not being recommended by the CDC, there are positive women breastfeeding their children, and they should not be judged. They should not be criminalized. They should not be in a place where their children might be taken away from them because they're endangering them with their breast milk. And so I don't think that the U equals U really is a universal message, but it should be.
Yeah, and again, I'm like definitely same wavelength as Melanie, right? So following up on some of the things you just shared. So yeah, the Well Project is actually a leader in this kind of conversation around women living with HIV and breast or chest feeding. And so it's definitely work that is happening to update the CDC guidance to at least not discourage breast or chest feeding. And so that's something that we're at the forefront of right now, and have additional resources. So you can find additional resources on the topic through our website at thewellproject.org. And then additionally, to touch on the person's question, right, as to how U equals U and other preventative measures like intersect with homelessness. I mean, yeah, I think it's important to think about that as well. I know there's also new long-acting treatment technologies that are, you know, like starting to be implemented now, and this might be one of those populations that benefits, right? So from long-term acting HIV. That might be more accessible for people who are not stably housed, and can achieve viral load suppression in order to right, kind of like receive the benefits of U equals U. And then and same thing with PrEP, right? We're also looking at long-acting PrEP, right? And so I feel like those are, in terms of biomedical, those are some of the things that are coming down the pipeline, and it's more so about making sure that we are engaging people who are not stably housed, right, with educational materials, with resources, with, you know, connecting them to the nearest places where they can access preventative resources and tools.
Yes, people need to realize housing is healthcare. So if you're homeless or not stably housed, you're at greater health risks for everything, not just HIV. So housing, we need to do work on housing.
Thank you. Darnell, any other questions?
No, I think that was all of them.
All right. Well, I actually do have a question for all of the panelists. What is one thing you would like the audience to know leaving this discussion? And I'll start off with Denise.
Okay, laugh. I would like everybody to know that there's benefits to laughing. Take time out. Don't take yourself so seriously. Give yourself a break. When things don't go accordingly or you take on too much, pause, take a break, regroup, let it go. You know, this illness is doing its own thing with our bodies. We don't need stress on top of it. Stress is a killer. So if you have a favorite comedian, laugh before you go to bed at night. Take yourself less seriously. If you're stuck in the house still, I'm working from home, and I forgot to say that a lot of things that when it comes to women, that's what I do for a living. I forgot to say that I train women as well, older adults. But just enjoy your life. Don't take yourself too seriously. Get out there and let things go and don't take on too much.
Thank you. Phyllis?
I would say my last thing on this, it ain't that deep. You need to take a take a nap, like Melanie said, take a nap, you know, get your free time together. Just say, hey, it's 1 o'clock, it's mama time, it's grandmama time, you know, and just be yourself, Or if you got to go in there and lock the bathroom and get you a bubble bath, you know, and then when the water get cold, turn the hot back on you. You can stand there for hours doing that. But that's your time. It's your time. You want to take a book in there with you? That's your time. And you gotta have your time because you can't help nobody. And it is like we help everybody but ourselves, and we help everybody in the household. Even if we live by ourselves, we helping the people next door neighbor, making sure they get their meds, don't get their meds, do they go to their doctor's appointment, and then we sick, so sick. Who gonna take care of us? We have to take care of us. So mind you, ladies, you need that self-care, and not forget it's about you.
Thank you. Grisel?
Yeah, I will echo those sentiments of self-care and finding moments for joy. And I think just a reminder that aging with HIV is a gift, right? Like we were not guaranteed to live this long. I'm having a few grays starting to come in, and I'm tending to them like little plants because I see them as like, you know what, this is an accomplishment, right? The fact that
It
like
is.
that I lived long enough to get some grace. So I am gonna embrace them. Well, we'll see. Check with me in a few years when there's more of that. That embracing the aging process. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here with you all.
Melanie?
Um, my last statements are, remember that Monday is National HIV/AIDS Testing Day, and self-care, you need to get tested and know your status. Not assume, not think, you need to know. Those who know their status have a base, a foundation to keep themselves healthy and be allowed to age healthily. So if you don't know your status, get tested. That's self-care, and self-care is vital.
Thank you. Aracelis?
Yes, to please continue to raise awareness by working with advocates that fight stigma and discrimination against people living with HIV. Do that through education, positive messages, social media, and promoting self-care. Thank you.
I wanted to add one last thing. I don't know if anybody knows about NATAP, but Jules Levin, he's a long-term
Yes.
survivor. He's been around for many, many years and has some excellent trainings. Go to NATAP's page, and there's trainings on women in HIV, and you'll gain a wealth of information from him as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists. This was really a great discussion. I learned a lot. I know I'll definitely be taking a lot of the self-care tips back. I'll get my naps in, Denise, and I'll also share my story a little bit more because I heard there's power in storytelling here. And thank you so much for everyone that attended and listened in and watched. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I don't know how.